Good day. Here are the top stories for Thursday, October 30th, 2025. We begin in Washington, where the partial government shutdown is now approaching the 30-day mark, and the real-world consequences for millions of Americans are beginning to crystallize. With no resolution in sight, officials are warning that thousands of flights could soon be delayed or canceled. The strain on essential personnel, such as air traffic controllers and Transportation Security Administration agents working without pay, is reaching a critical point. Beyond the nation's airports, tens of millions of Americans who rely on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or food stamps, are set to lose those benefits as emergency funding reservoirs run dry. The shutdown also casts a shadow over the healthcare sector, with experts warning of a potential spike in healthcare premiums if the stalemate continues to disrupt federal operations and payments. For nearly a month, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have been locked in a political standoff, trading blame for the impasse. Republicans, along with some Democrats, have advocated for a continuing resolution to maintain funding at current levels and reopen the government, but have so far failed to secure enough votes to overcome opposition. However, there may be a slight shift in the political climate. On Tuesday, Senate Majority Leader John Thune told reporters that bipartisan talks have ticked up significantly. He specifically emphasized that these conversations are happening among rank-and-file Democrats, not just within leadership circles. Such discussions outside the formal negotiation process are sometimes key to breaking a legislative logjam, but for now, the pressure continues to mount as the tangible impacts of the shutdown loom larger each day. In a major policy shift with global ramifications, President Donald Trump announced on Wednesday that the United States will resume the testing of nuclear weapons. The declaration, made in a post on the Truth Social platform, ends a unilateral moratorium that has been in place for over 3 decades. The president stated, "Because of other countries' testing programs, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis." He added that the process would begin immediately. This move reverses a long-standing U.S. policy. The last time the United States conducted a nuclear weapons test was an underground detonation in September 1992. Following that test, President George H.W. Bush announced a unilateral halt to all nuclear testing. This decision was part of a broader international effort to curb nuclear proliferation following the end of the Cold War. International agreements have long restricted such activities. The 1963 Limited Test Ban Treaty, signed by the U.S., banned all nuclear tests in the atmosphere, in space, and underwater, though it permitted them to continue underground. The new directive from the president appears to signal a departure from the spirit of subsequent non-proliferation efforts and is likely to draw significant condemnation from international allies and arms control advocates who fear it could trigger a new and dangerous arms race. Staying in Washington, the Supreme Court is weighing a significant case concerning the limits of presidential power. On Tuesday, the justices delayed a ruling on the lawfulness of the Trump administration's deployment of National Guard troops to Chicago. Instead of issuing a decision, the court has directed the attorneys for the administration, the state of Illinois, and the city of Chicago to provide further arguments. Specifically, the justices want the parties to address the precise legal meaning of the term regular forces, as it is used in a federal law that grants the president the authority to take command of state National Guard units. The case stems from a lawsuit filed on October 6th by Illinois and Chicago. The suit was a direct response to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's decision to invoke Section 12406 of Title 10 of the U.S. Code. This action federalized up to 300 members of the Illinois National Guard and an additional 400 members of the Texas National Guard, ordering their deployment in Chicago. A federal district judge who previously heard the case noted that the provocative nature of ICE's enforcement activity has caused a significant increase in protest activity, providing the context for the administration's deployment. The Supreme Court's focus on the definition of regular forces suggests it is grappling with the fundamental constitutional balance between federal authority and state control over its own militia. The delay leaves the legal status of the troops in Chicago in limbo for now. Turning to foreign policy, lawmakers from both parties are criticizing a Pentagon decision to scale back the American military presence on NATO's eastern flank. The controversy began after Romania's defense ministry drew attention on October 29th to a U.S. decision to cancel a planned, brigade-sized rotation of American troops. These forces were scheduled to cycle through key allied nations including Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, and Slovakia. In its official statement, the U.S. Army's European component said the canceled rotation reflects increased European capability and responsibility in the region. The Pentagon's position is that NATO allies have sufficiently strengthened their own military presence and readiness, allowing the United States to adjust its posture. However, this explanation has not satisfied many in Washington. Lawmakers on both sides of the political aisle have expressed dismay, questioning not only the strategic wisdom of the move, but also why they were not consulted beforehand. The bipartisan criticism stems from a concern that pulling back U.S. troops, however temporary, could be misinterpreted by adversaries as a weakening of America's commitment to the NATO alliance. These troop rotations were originally enhanced as a measure of reassurance and deterrence following Russia's military actions in the region, and their cancellation is seen by some as sending the wrong signal at a sensitive time. Finally, in a rare bipartisan rebuke of executive authority on trade, the U.S. Senate voted Wednesday evening to challenge President Trump's power to impose additional tariffs on Canada. The final vote was 50-46 on a measure introduced by Virginia Democrat Tim Kaine. In a significant development, 4 Republican senators joined with the Democratic caucus to pass the measure. The defecting Republicans included Senators Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Rand Paul of Kentucky, and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, also of Kentucky. If it were to become law, the measure would grant Congress the ability to formally declare its disapproval of the president's most recent round of tariffs targeting Canadian goods. The vote represents a broader effort within the legislative branch to reassert its constitutional authority over matters of international trade, a power that many feel has shifted excessively to the executive branch in recent years. However, the future of the measure is highly uncertain. A similar bill passed by the Senate earlier this year was never brought up for a vote in the House of Representatives. The decision of whether to allow a vote on this new measure now rests with House Speaker Mike Johnson, who wields significant control over the legislative agenda, leaving the ultimate impact of the Senate's challenge in doubt.